Being a really fun day. This is, uh, let me, my brain just went. This is Heather Hillenbrand, and
Hi.
she has written two amazing books, A Boy's Magic and A Girl's Magic, and this is the topic of a celebration today, because we these books are magnificent. And I think that every parent needs to have these books as kind of on the bookshelf. They're there because they're such a good resource. Heather, what inspired you? I know you're a sex therapist and relation therapist. So talk to us about these books and just what it means to you to be able to bring them to the world.
Yeah, that's a big question. And thank you so much for helping me with these books, and the promotion of these books, and also just the sweet compliment. I agree. I think every parent needs to have these books on their shelf, but I'm biased. Um, Really, the vision for these books was started about 4 or 5 years ago. Um, I had been working as a sex educator, co-facilitating and taking a lot of workshops and learning all things about as much possibly about sex that I could, sex and sexuality. And inside of these workshops, there were lots of parents that would raise their hands and go, how do I give this information to my children? How do I talk to my kids about sex?
Right.
And I was overwhelmed with inspiration to offer that kind of support. And it just came to me. I was driving down the road and I had this very clear vision for a girl's magic. I had to pull over and actually even write the poem
Kind of write it
down.
all down.
I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I was on my voice memo actually on my phone. And then I went home and like sketched out all the images. And I'm not a spectacular artist, but I can create some art. And so I thought I could do this. And that's really where the journey began. And of course, we have girls' magic, we have to have a boys' magic. And the books have become the foundation for my career as not only an author and an illustrator, but then venturing into sex education. And now I just graduated from grad school and I'm a sex and relationship therapist.
That is
So
amazing. That is beautiful. And you know what? I think of so many people, and it didn't happen this way with me, but so many parents have no clue of how to prepare their children, and their kids 17 or 18, and they're just, you know what to do, don't you? Type of a thing. And really, if they're educated very early on about, their bodies and the changes that they're going to experience, I think that it just makes them much happier, much more adaptable to the changes that are going to take place in their bodies. But it's really kind of creates the magic for them, just like the name of your books.
yeah, I think that connection with your parents early on and having that open communication throughout a child's life is really, really important to create the foundation for that conversation to happen. So that when they are then 15, 16, and 17, it's not sort of like, oh, you know what to do. It's sort of like, let's talk about it and have the conversation now that it's here.
Hmm.
And that's a huge thing of these books. It's intended to open the conversation for younger minds. They're for ages 8 to 12, and I think they can be read for younger kids as well. 6 and 7 year olds are just learning to read, but a lot of the parents that I had read to their children before I published, um, they said that the content was a little old for them, but the children were engaged with the imagery and also trying to keep up with the words, really
Hmm.
reaching for the more. And so just the books then become like a little seed in their mind, and they can sit on the bookshelf and the kids can come back to them and the parents can come back to them for ideas about how do I open this conversation.
Well, for the children that are in public school, or any kind of school for that matter, they're exposed to a lot already, and
Mhm.
yet we don't want them to find out, to learn things that are not true,
Mhm.
and the confusion that it can cause. But the confidence that they gain by knowing what to expect is truly very important. And there's nothing worse than for a little girl to find out she's had a period and she doesn't know what's wrong with her, and nobody's ever
Mhm.
talked to her about it. That's not the way it should be. It's really the responsibility of the parents to fully equip them and be prepared for these things?
Well, I think it's a responsibility of the family, the community at large, and definitely the parents to have these conversations. I think it's we're all responsible as a culture to make the changes that we want. And I agree. I think that to have a little girl find out when she actually has her first menstruation, that's when we menstruate, it's a very scary experience.
It's horrible. Yeah.
It's horrible. Yeah. And I've had so many women and even girls who've only had menstruation for 2 or 3 years say, I wish that I had this book when I first started having my period. And so it's so important. Just not like knowledge is power, it's so important. Yes. And something you said too about we don't want them to find out other ways. Well, the reality is in our world right now is that they are internet,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And they find out by Googling things like innocent things like private parts or what does sex mean? And then of course pornography comes up. And if there's no education or communication in the home or school or otherwise, then that actually becomes the education. And so they become misinformed about what sex and sexuality is. And there certainly isn't any information about the first menstruation or the first ejaculation on these sites. It's all sex and fantasy.
Yeah, it is nothing, not the real true picture of what life is truly about. And I think that if parents start at a very young age and society itself, that those that are the educators such as yourself, and the groundwork is laid for a kid as they grow up into their teen years. They're much more respectable. They understand and they respect not only their bodies, but they understand what's truly happening. And I think it makes them more responsible.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And you also mentioned before about confidence. I mean, knowing your body brings confidence, right? It's the deepest empowerment is bringing knowledge to your children about how their body functions. Like we teach our kids what their ears are for, what their mouths are for. We teach them when they're little, when they're toddlers. This is the word for that thing, and this is what that thing does, and this is why that thing is important. It's important to have food in the mouth so that we can nourish our bodies and maintain health. It's important for them to understand, and then they grow up understanding how that works, and that promotes health. It's the same concept here with sex and sexuality. And we start just with a word, right? Calling it the vulva, calling it breasts or penis, actually saying the words. It's empowering. And then all of a sudden they understand, oh, this is another part of my body and it has this kind of function.
And it's not dirty. It's not dirty. It's there's a big difference in connotation when they understand what it's for.
Exactly. It's not a secret. It's not wrong. It's just understood, just like another part of my body.
Beautiful. Well, you've certainly done, the work that you did in bringing these books, your illustrations, your artwork is fabulous. And because of that, I would encourage people to not just a Kindle version and not just a paperback. I'd get the hardcover because you want this in your family for a long time to come. That's the whole point of this. This is kind of one of those staples for the bookshelf.
Yeah, thank you so much, Becky. I really appreciate that. My creativity and my passion is really a part of this book as well. And it's intentional because we want to keep young minds, we want to keep their attention.
Right.
And a lot of times young minds attach more to metaphor than they do to just outright telling them, what does that mean? I don't understand. Or a 6, 7, 8-year-old, you get their attention for, 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe.
That much.
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer, Yeah. But it's easier to have if we have an image in front of them, we have something tangible for them to hold and to look at and to sound words out with them, then they start to really understand. We're hitting there's something called multiple intelligences, and we all learn differently.
Mhm.
So some people are kinesthetic learners and they learn through physical and experience. Some people are interpersonal learners. They learn through experience with other humans and emotional connection. Some people are very intellectual and academic learners. Some people are auditory learners. Some people are very visual. So it helps to have a visual medium for visual learners or a more creative medium for creative learners. And also the words there for intelligent,
Yes.
for that variety of intelligences.
Well, this way it is not a mystery. It's just a fact of life. It's not something that is just there's something secret and scary or secret and dirty or anything like that. It's life. It's the fact
Yeah.
of life.
It's just a fact of life. And in the books, there's actually a parent guide in the back of the books that supports parents to move through the book and use it in a good way with their children. So in the back of the book, I talk a lot about the use of shame and specifically not using shame. I think, and that's one of the things that you're talking about, is that it's not a secret, it's not hidden, it's not nasty or dirty or wrong.
Mhm.
There's no shame in it. There's no shame in understanding our parts and how they work. There's no shame in feeling sexual feelings. There's no shame in our bodily changes and how we evolve through life. Right? It's just, it's part of life. It's a fact of life.
It's very much a fact of life, and every one of us go through it. So what's the mystery is kind of the the overall thing. It's just that I think even many parents, especially younger parents, are not equipped. Maybe they didn't even get the right training as they were growing up, so they're not quite sure how to treat this issue with their own children. But this is one of the most beautiful ways that will stop that. We'll change that whole flow, because it's about being consciously being aware of how to prepare our children for just a wholesome way of being.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really what I was going for. And I think it's an interesting word, wholesome. I think holistic, as in the whole, the body as a whole, mm-hmm. Not wholesome in the term of, something that needs to be hidden or pure, but really respecting our bodies as a whole.
Right.
And
that's how I meant it. Yes.
Yeah. And our person as a whole.
Right.
Well,
for those that are listening, be sure and pick up a copy. The links are in the chat, but if you don't see them in the chat because some of the platforms don't allow it, just type in Heather Hillenbrand on Amazon and it'll take you right to both of her books. And we do suggest that you pick up a copy of both. In particular, if you have boys and girls in your family, if you have both, I would say get both books, because these are really valuable, wonderful teaching tools, and share them with those that that would really benefit with them. And I think I interrupted you, so you were going to say something else.
I don't really remember, but I think that we were kind of just talking about the, understanding the body and a part of ourselves as a part of the whole, mm-hmm. and offering it to children in a wholesome way, in a nurturing way.
Right.
And, this is one thing that you said that is really interesting and also really inspired my books, is that you're right. Many of our parents, my parents and their parents, they didn't know how. They didn't know how to give this information.
No.
Because nobody gave it to them.
Right.
And that's really another inspiration for these books, is that because I didn't receive it in its fullest or whole capacity, then I really wanted, this for my inner child, but also, for the world, for the children of the world to have something different.
Well, and that preparation.
Parents.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And that preparation is what is so important, because it really changes life experience, because they come into the world and they have the knowledge, so they're not ignorant of what's going to happen. They're fully equipped and they know what to do and what to expect. And it's not, I think if they're not informed, then it makes everything a little bit like mysterious, and
Mm-hmm.
there's more of a tendency to look at the things that are maybe not as healthy, and it's simply because being informed and understanding their body makes it to where it's not like a big old secret.
It's true. Research actually shows that the more sex education children and tweens and teens have, children and adolescents really, that the less high-risk behaviors they engage in. So they have more, they have a greater understanding of how to make discerning, choices for
Right.
themselves. And then they have support. If that conversation has been open at home, then if they run into something at school or in their lives, they have support at home to go and say, hey mom, hey dad, hey parent,
Yeah, this is what's happening.
this is what's going on. Can I ask you about this? Or if a girl is educated about her body and her menstruation and all of this starts to happen. That's right, Alex. The more sex ed teens have, they have a greater understanding to make discerning choices. Yeah. Oh, you're quoting me. Yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. And so it becomes an empowerment, really.
It does. Yeah, very much. Well, I'm really pleased that we get to work together with getting this book out to the world, and it's something that is very vitally needed. And I would say, if you are raising children or know people that are, this would make a fabulous gift, and this should be on every single bookshelf, just because it's such a beautifully done, well written book, set of books, not just one book. It's a set of books. A boy's magic and a girl's magic. Heather, very proud of you for what you brought to the world.
Thank you so much, Becky. And I'm really grateful for you coming on board. We were talking a little bit more that I wasn't the usual author. I don't think this is a usual project.
No, it is not.
It is not. There's not a lot of people out in the world doing it. I think when I got into my field, it felt like, oh, there's so many people doing this. But in reality, there's not a lot of programs going on. So it's really my dream and my inspiration to have this go out into the world. And
well, you found your calling.
I did. Yeah, I did. And it feels really good, really delightful. And I'm so inspired and motivated to be able to share my dream. We've talked a lot about girls and the first menstruation, and with a boy's magic, it really paints the first ejaculation as the rite of passage. And in a lot of ways, a girl's magic was easier for me to create because I was a girl.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. But also, I think it's more obvious in our world that girls have this sort of natural rite of passage, this natural time in their life that people with a vulva and a vagina experience. And boys don't necessarily, it's not so obvious what this marker in time is. And with boys, there's a lot of like, when is it going to happen? And because everybody develops at a different rate. And I think especially for boys, there's a lot of pressure for them to suddenly be like big and strong and have hair and all the things they want. They want to show their mustache and their beard, and they want to have chest hair. And that's one of the things in my book that I really promote, is that everyone is different and we all develop at different rates. And especially for those boys, because it's so much about how strong they are and what's
a lot of peer pressure too.
So much peer pressure to be something. Right. So it's reiterated again and again that everybody's experience is unique and in their own timing, and that the first ejaculation is actually sort of the rite of passage. And that can be a very, very tender thing to talk about. And sort of, I have a guide in the back of A Boy's Magic as well to help parents aid in that conversation. One wonderful thing that can help you talk to boys, especially about this topic, that first ejaculation, is having the conversation with them in the outdoors, maybe on a hike or a walk, or somewhere where they don't have to make direct eye contact with you. especially if you're a mom trying to talk to your son about it. If they have to make eye contact, it can be such an uncomfortable thing for any of the kids to begin with. But if they have to make direct eye contact, it feels very overwhelming for them. So going somewhere where they're doing an activity in addition to the conversation and where they don't have to look directly at you is really, really supportive.
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, what a day is to celebrate, and a huge accomplishment on your part. And what's coming up for you as far as any other books in mind, or what's going on for you as far as things that you're accomplishing or want to accomplish?
So many things. Right now, to be honest, I am looking at taking a break. just working in my practice, enjoying the success of a boy's magic and a girl's magic, and just relaxing for maybe a little while. I don't know, 6 months, a year, but I'll get bored eventually. And then I do have another book in the works. This one's a little bit more of a biographical experience of what it is to be a sexual human from ages 0 to 18. And so that one's in the works.
Very cool.
And then I also have a couple other things, possibly a gender fluid book. I'm not sure. I'm really thinking about that. That's not where my specialty lies as a sex educator and a sex and relationship therapist. So I've got to do some research and get really, really educated to be able to write a book to support that topic.
Beautiful.
Yeah. My company, Soulfire Productions, I make other educational tools, and I'm looking at doing some things that are specifically for sex educators and sex therapists to support them in their job.
Beautiful. Well, you're very needed in today's world, and thank you for how you serve. Each of us have our own special niche and the way we serve, and each of us, there's a lot of respect for that. You have the courage to follow your heart and to bring, something valuable to the world, and it is very, very important in this day and age.
Thank you. Yeah, I find it to be important as well. The more that I do this, the more that I meet people that really, they come to me and they go, I don't know what to say to my kid. I don't know how to talk about this. But the interesting part is that as parents are learning to talk to their children about sex and sexuality and the development, they're learning. Will this interview be available after the live event? Awesome. The parents are also learning about their own sex and sexuality, their own understanding of what this means for themselves. And then they're going, oh, wow. Well, that's a discovery.
I know all this.
Yeah. And that, I think that's another thing about sex and sexuality is we don't know what we don't know.
That's right.
We don't. And we kind of figure it out and bumble along as we go along in life. And then there's just so much more. It's really, really infinite.
That's beautiful. Well, I want to close our interview because I have a email to my whole database, and I wanted to put this video in with it. And it's set to go out in just about 10 minutes. So I need to close this down and get the recording. And I'll send you the recording so you can use it as you wish to, because I know there's people that are asking about getting a recording.
Great.
So, very good. Thank you, and congratulations. You've made it. You are a best-selling author. And we celebrate on both accounts. Both books have become bestsellers. So thank you
so much, Becky. I really, really appreciate your support and the interview and everything that you've done.
Thank you. And go and celebrate. Enjoy your day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.